It all started with a small house, the owners of which were the happy Liar family, but everything ended too suddenly. Arkel and Mikkel's parents died. They were left all alone. They had a large inheritance, islands, jewels, and a high status, but all this was worth absolutely nothing. Everything was torn to pieces and lost. The girl and her brother just stood and listened. She is already over 20. A coming-of-age ceremony needs to be held, and the first person to give her flowers will take the count's seat. The boy turns to his sister, but only in response does she hug him. He starts to cry. The sister asks him not to. There is no need for others to see his tears. The brother says that he will not do this. His sister encourages him. It's not a shame to cry. You're still just a child. But we don't need to show weakness. Now there are 2 of us. The guy asks, even to these people? But they don't feel sorry for them. These people kept an eye on their inheritance from their parents. Arcel didn't know if it was worth telling a child who was not even 13 about harsh realities. But it is better than living in ignorance and being deceived. Theirs, probably. Everyone can be considered enemies. People only gossiped about the family. Yesterday they just held a funeral, and today they are already riding in a luxurious carriage. They have no manners. The brother asks where they are going. Their path lies to the Duchy of Janat, which owns the sea. As the son of the head of a house that owns coastal areas, her brother loves the sea. She read about it. It was transferred to a book. Arcel could not even think that something like this could happen to her. Mikkel was born with the same magical powers, but he did not have time to demonstrate his strength. Count Liar and his wife died in an accident. All the income they had, they literally tore it to pieces and pocketed it for relatives whom even their children did not know. When the sister heard that the brother wanted to see the sea, she collected the remaining money to go to the coast. But pickpockets stole the last funds with which the heroes were supposed to call a carriage and return, so in the end they froze to death. If everything continues like this, Arcel will face the same terrible death as the heroine of the book, but she will not allow it to happen. Janet invited them to his place. He is well trained in etiquette. The sister only answers that no, but everything will be fine. They will not go to the castle itself. Duke Cale von Geneth is known as the Duke of the Sea, a nobleman whose true face is hidden behind a veil. About this time, he should be induced to marry the Empress, but a 20-year-old young man will not listen to anyone. He does not trust people. As a man who does not like to be invaded and disturbed in his life, he will be happy with my offer. Liar shouts that she sees the sea, and the sister is still flying in her thoughts. She was just shocked that they had already arrived. It is now December 991, according to the imperial calendar. A month has passed since the death of his parents. Arcel was sure that now he was standing by the sea, which kept the memories of his parents. And the brother and sister are already near the sea. She was right, he was here. The girl tries to calm down. The brother asks if everything is fine. She only says that everything is fine. He should be more careful. It is quite deep here. From the side you can hear, "Who are you?" This is Duke Cale von Geneth. He says that this beach is his property. He does not remember inviting them. Arcel understands that it cannot be like that. She begins to speak. "Greetings to you, your highness Duke Janat." The Duke looks displeased and realizes that it's not the beach at all. He was the target. The girl gives her name, Arcel de Liard, and the name of her younger brother, Michel de Liard. Cale was surprised what had happened, since the Count's daughter decided to meet him secretly. She hesitantly begins to say that she has come to sign the agreement. Perhaps the Duke of the Sea needs an island not far away that is owned by the County of Liar, and is he interested in marrying not for love? The guy remembered that if she is Liar, then she recently received an inheritance. They just felt sorry for each other. Around this time, the Duke began to suffer because of a marriage proposal from relatives on his mother's side, who were trying to vacate the place of Duke of the Sea. There were many who directly tried to lure him. Not intelligent people who tried to persuade the young Duke and keep the ownership of the sea in their hands. They were dying. The girl says that Jenna is looking for a bride. He needs her on terms favorable to him. This is not just a vulgar union. It is important for the Duke to find a potential bride who will understand everything about Janat and keep her mouth shut, to which he replies, "You talk as if Janat has flaws." Arcel is just beginning to say that he did not understand her well, what flaws Janat might have. The girl knew that the coastal waters of the islands of House Lyre were very necessary for him. The ducal house of Jannat has another name, the House of Pirates. Families engaged in piracy had more than 10 times the income of legitimate families. There are rumors of a ship full of jewels. However, there were cases that led to serious losses. For the guardian who protects the eastern shores by day, and for the pirate who threatens him at night, for him the property of House Lyre is definitely desirable. Kale was furious. Of course, the one who knows the Duke's secret is definitely the head, so the girl came there to negotiate a deal. The girl was ready for anything. She offered him to give the water area of Lyre County. In exchange, he must marry her. Arcelle didn't love him, and he didn't love her. She just wanted a wall to hide her brother from danger until he graduated from the academy, after which they would divorce. The man does not understand why they came. The financial situation of the county is not so bad as not to ensure admission to the academy. She only needs to protect her precious little brother. The plan is to let Mikkel be reborn as a full-fledged mage, then he won't die. The Duke needs the Sea of House Lyre and I need the shield. Isn't that a great deal? Says Arcelle. She understood that her conditions were not good enough, but she would not violate the terms of the marriage contract. Kale only replied that he agreed. Everyone was shocked. It happened too soon. The girl came with delicious treats. Therefore, he will not think of letting them in. There was no distance between them. The Duke came close to Arcelle. Everyone said goodbye. Mikkel is afraid of this man, and so is the girl. They just need to be patient a little. Arcelle was sure that they would manage, but her brother didn't seem to hear her. She only saw her brother's surprised face. Their carriage is missing. They don't know what to do if they can't get back. The events were the same as in the book, but that was not the case. The girl had money with her. They would find a new carriage. Where did the hooves come from? Something was coming straight at them. It was a carriage, and a woman got out of it who introduced herself as Rosetta in the ducal house of Jannat. His Majesty ordered to take care of Arcelle and Mikkel. They were shocked when they arrived not at the house, but at the house of Jannat. The maid invited them to the house. She offered to go to the guest room right away. If they were not too tired, the choice fell on the guest room. Kale was standing in the guest room. He called them to enter the room. He was glad they had come so soon. After the meeting on the beach, he changed his clothes and looked completely different. The girl thanked for the carriage, but she thought that she would be taken to Lyre's house. The Duke was drinking tea and talking slowly. He saw no point in returning to the house if they were going to get married soon. He didn't care that rumors of the wedding might spread because of her arrival. He questions whether it is an honor for her to become his wife. Can such obscene rumors change her decision? The girl was shocked. She found out his biggest secret, and she was still shocked by such an insignificant remark. She assured herself that she had read about such a thing in a novel, but did not expect it in reality. The Duke decided to ask a sneaky question, how the girl would react if he punished everyone who would spread such rumors. Kale only wondered if she wasn't marrying so that she could have the mighty power of the Geneth clan, and then punish everyone who misbehaved with them. The Duke was sure that such a thing could not harm his wife. Before the girl moved into the book, she had an older sister. They lost their parents in childhood. The sister grew up very early and did everything for the sake of the younger one, but in the end, she left her early. Mikkel and Arcelle embraced and promised to protect each other from enemies. The boy knew that everyone was an enemy except his sister. A week had passed since their stay in Jannat's house, and they were visited by guests in a luxurious carriage. At that time, the sister was standing by the window. The younger brother came to ask who it was, to which the sister joyfully replied that the guests had arrived. The guy offered to get rid of them. He thought they were dangerous. The girl was shocked. He is still too small for such a thing. A maid came into the room. She said that the Duke was looking for them, and he ordered Mikkel to come. The girl had no idea why Mikkel should come, other than to talk about the academy. The girl was not mistaken. Kale called them to place the boy in an academy, not in any simple one, but in Temela Academy. The academy was very famous, you just can't get there. Arcelle refused the offer. The academy is the best of all options, but considering how much it will cost, it will be too expensive for Jannat. She does not want to be in debt. The Duke asked if the girl had heard of the rumors. He stood over the table and reduced the distance between them. He said that they are obliged to take everything he gives. He does nothing to harm himself. The man came even closer to the girl and reminded her that the contract had already entered into force, calling her dear bride. In the end, Mikkel was accepted into the academy. Its director, Demian himself, was glad to meet them. The girl was only thinking whether events were passing too quickly. At that time, she was introducing Mikkel to the director of the academy. Arcel didn't know what methods Kale used, but now he looked surprisingly elegant. Despite this, amid the stormy waves, he is a criminal who cuts the throats of his enemies, drowning countless of them in the sea. The girl knew. It is necessary to hold on. If I let my guard down, I will be eaten. The director of the academy tried in every way to show his friendliness. The brother and sister were shocked by such communication, and in the girl's mind there was only a question. Why was he told that he was trying so hard? Arcel turned to her brother, but he did not answer her. She noticed only his look at Kale. She could not understand what was happening here, why they were looking at each other like that. The girl tells the director that Mikkel is entering the Faculty of Magic. In the short story, it was described that he is a genius magician who is born on the continent once in 1,000 years. Rather, he could become one. If he becomes a mage, he can find his purpose and live a happy life instead of freezing to death. But the girl can't pawn him off if he doesn't like it. She offered him another faculty. But the boy will be a magician because his sister said so. It moved her. A few minutes before signing the enrollment application, they are told that no one will be able to visit the boy, and he will not be able to return to the mansion for a certain period. Mikkel was saddened by such news. He said that he would not go anywhere. Then the Duke spoke. He said that he did not know what price his sister had paid for this, that all her efforts must have been in vain. The girl did not understand why he said that. Kale continued to add gasoline to the fire. He tried to hook the boy. He said, "Until this time, you pierced me with a look, but it turned out that it was not the look of a wild animal, but an impudent dog." The Duke got his way, and Mikkel signed the statement. The director asked what the relationship was between the Duke and Mikkel's guardian. Kale decided to demonstrate everything himself. He stood behind the girl, bent down, took her hand in his, and signed the statement together. The guy corrected the girl's last name, wrote his own, and told her, "Remember, Mikkel is his wife's brother." The girl told her brother that he could still refuse. He does not give up. He is going to go and become stronger for his sister, because they are left alone among enemies. The girl looked at her brother. Kale came up from behind, said that now it was her turn, and knew that they were going to the island. The Duke was surprised that he even knew about it. She offered to postpone the trip, because she will be away for a long time. She has to take care of family affairs. The island is not a place where visits from strangers are welcome. Arcel says that she needs to borrow the knight Janat, to which her new husband says that she is not afraid to remain in debt. The girl was sure that she would not be guilty of anything for this. Currently, all the servants of the Lyre House are spies sent by other families, but soon a loyal knight will join the knight's squad, and until he appears, she will use the power of Janat. The girl left, only saying at the end that they would talk about the details at home. Elika visited the Duke. He could not believe that he would really marry Lady Lyre. Kale only replies that they already have an agreement, and the knight must go and help Lyre's house. Elika asked him to change his decision. He was afraid that after the divorce, all Janat's secrets would come out. The Duke threatened to bury him if he opened his mouth again. He was sure he would not lose the war that was taking place on his territory. Arcel exposed his secret and declared herself that if she knew everything about him, she should also have known that it was better not to get caught by him. The knight escorted the girl to her new office. Arcel asked if he knew how to deal with property matters, but he did not know how to lie. She knew that there were people who were given permission to deal with the affairs of the Duchy of Geneth, and judging by the way Kale trusted Ella, he could be one of them. It's hard to find out, but she was able to. Before the reincarnation, Arcel was a simple schoolgirl, but fortunately, she remembers what Count Lyre and his wife did not teach her. The girl shows a map of all the noble families in the district, tells about the bribed knights of the house, about relatives who only crave money and inheritance. She does not mind the knight learning about the internal affairs of the house. She trusts him in the hope of cooperation. Allahu feels the pressure from both sides, both from the Countess and from the Duke. It is difficult for him. Arcel and Kale are riding in a carriage. The Duke mentions their recent conversation with the Countess. If he had not agreed to give her a knight, she would have asked someone else for it. Surprisingly, He did not like this option. Janat's secret territory, even the girl knew this. She is well versed in this topic. All outsiders who come to the island become residents. In other words, they will never be able to set foot on the ground again. Shaking hands with the Countess, they get off the boat. Arcelle is mesmerized by the view around her. She is holding onto the deck with her hands. The wind is slowly blowing her hair. Before her rebirth, she did not have the opportunity to ride a boat. The waves shake the boat sharply. The girl loses her balance, but the Duke manages to catch the girl from behind. He tells her to be more careful. The girl was embarrassed. She did not understand why she was so embarrassed by the unbuttoned buttons on Cale's shirt. Arcelle surprisingly knew a lot about the island, so the Duke asks if she will tell him how she knows so much about the island. She firmly answered no. Even if she told him, he would not believe her, or he would cut her throat right away, even though he had promised to marry her. The guy approaches her to find out what he wanted earlier, but the girl's gaze always falls on her bare breasts. She is embarrassed. Arcelle agrees to tell the story. She says that the people on the island who work with information, they are not afraid to bathe in dirt and remain free. If it helps them gather information, they will learn everything about Arcelle de Liar. The girl tries to divert the topic and begins to speak for the women on board, but the pirates do not like them. The Duke's mother cut off about 20 heads because of their superstition, but he, with a smile on his face, told her not to be afraid. If anyone dared to say such nonsense, he would be thrown overboard. The ship shook violently. Arcelle once again found herself in the strong hands of Cale. It's much safer than holding onto the railing. He was glad that she was not trying to escape from his grasp. A rumble was heard. The girl raises her head uphill. Her face was filled with fear. The ship was attacked by a monster. Arcelle did not have time to say anything. One of the pirates with a spear runs at the monster. The Duke continues to keep the girl close to him. It's all over. The girl could not think calmly. She was scared. She only pushed the Duke away from her later. Cale calls himself a butcher. He doesn't feel anything at all looking at this whole picture. Only Arcelle is worried. She just almost died. The Duke calls Kiris, the chief mate on the ship, to come. He approaches with other workers and introduces himself to the Countess. The man asks the girl to introduce herself. She says, "I am Arcelle de Liar, and in the near future she will be Arcelle von Janat." Everyone stood shocked. No one expected such news from the Duke. The Countess and the Duke are standing in front of a bunch of shocked people. One of the workers wonders if the Duke is going to be buried at sea later. Arcelle was outraged by such a question. She only said that such rumors would spread throughout the continent, and was the Duke one of those people who was ready to bury his wife? The man starts apologizing. He was wrong and deserves to die. He behaved rudely. Cale only asks if he wants to taste the seawater. Only the most loyal servants and family members of Janat know about the island. Arcelle is now also Janat, and that's why she became a man of the sea. The current near the island is more turbulent than the girl thought. This current leads to Anna. The Duke leaned over the Countess's shoulder and said that this is the homeland of monsters. A guy quickly ran in front of the girl. She didn't even have time to look at him. It felt like he was going to fall. The maid quickly runs somewhere. She wants to inform the senior maid that the ship has docked at the shore. She tries to explain to the elder that a guest has arrived. Not a sea guest, she has arrived. Unable to restrain her emotions any longer, she shouted, "The bride of your highness, mistress of the castle!" The maid did not believe her, until Cale and Arcelle enter the house. Everyone tried to communicate with the girl as a guest from the sea, but the Duke denied them and finally confirmed that she would soon become the owner of this castle. The man keeps some secret that there is a sea guest here. He orders to leave it as it is. The assistant takes the Duke to eat after a hard journey. The maids calmly set the table for the Countess. At the beginning of the meal, Arcelle notices two girls at the entrance. One asks if she does not mind fish. The other says that the guest should be served meat. The head maid apologizes for those two. They are not yet trained in noble etiquette. If the girl is not comfortable, they can send her somewhere else. The girl notices that there has been no landlady in the house for a long time. The decor and everything else has already gone out of fashion. For a while, she will rule here and change something. The girl suspected something was wrong. She wondered who was called a sea guest. The Duke enters the hall. He rolls up his sleeves and apologizes for being late. He asks if Arcelle can give him some time. The two of them are sitting at the table. The girl is tired after a long journey, but she tells her husband that she will not wander anywhere. She knows only about the existence of a sea guest, but nothing else. He was not mentioned in the novel. She knew that the guest would not return to the house. The island kept many secrets. The girl turned out to be much smarter than her fiancé thought. There are superstitions on the island. If you refuse a guest, you will be punished the next time you swim, so they are treated well here, but only until midnight. The man tells a terrible story about sea guests, about how they deal with uninvited guests. But the girl doesn't care. She can go anywhere. If someone dares to show off in front of the future mistress, he will be thrown into Anna. Then Arcel remembered the events on the ship, when she almost died, and about the current, which is the homeland of monsters. The Countess was embarrassed by the look of the Duke. She did not understand why he was looking at her like that. The girl was tormented by the question that everyone was wary of the island, and whether the man would do something about it. But of course, if the topic was not pleasant for him, she did not force him to talk about it. But no matter what she does, nothing will affect Janat. She only worries in vain, says the Duke. Kale doesn't mind the girl buying a castle on the mainland or building a new mansion. She can use one of the rooms for a wardrobe. He doesn't mind such small expenses. Morning later, the maid opens the curtains to let the first rays of the sun into the room. The morning on the island is wonderful. Arkell stayed up all night. She could not forget the conversation with the Duke. She was served a wonderful and exquisite breakfast. She asked what happened to yesterday's sea guest. The assistant just bowed her head. He was handed over to the sea. The girl was thinking about what she should do today. The only thing she knew. Who will not make any luxurious purchases? If she cannot pay for them, she will become a sea guest and be thrown into the sea. Lyre's possession being taken away from her, she would not get into even greater debt. Arcel was talking to the maid until a confused girl came running. But she said that one of the ships encountered a group of monsters. They have nothing to fight them. Mrs. Shiata should go to help, although she has not been involved in this for a long time. But no one can lead now except her. A thought flashed through Arcel's head. That monsters can be intelligent, so she told the two girls. They stood shocked. Monsters definitely cannot be intelligent. Even the saying is stupid lots. The girl takes everything into her own hands. She begins to draw a map. The new plan was perfect. Everyone was shocked by the mind of the Countess. Arcel is going to personally go to the rescue to show that her plan is a good one. The maid refuses her. A guest should not do such things, so she takes the card and leaves. The Duke's future wife, although from the mainland, is well versed in the sea and knows all the secrets of Janat. Besides, she is of noble origin. The girl chastises herself. She is afraid that the plan may fail, but she studied the waters of Lyre well before the contract, so everything should work. In the window, she saw the Duke with Sir Alaka. Apparently, he had finished his work in Lyre and returned. Kale spotted the girl through the window, but he turned with the knight and left. The girl was quickly visited by her new maids, whom she called Shiata. One of them had bloodstains on her dress. She was scared, but kept looking at her new assistant. Everyone was friendly, so they offered the Countess a walk on the shore, but she wanted to see everything inside the residence first. They tried with all their efforts to lead her outside the fortress. The castle was located in the very center of the island. A month ago, when Kale received his inheritance, all the neighbors rioted, so he cut out all the traitors from the families. Members of the Van Riel family were the only ones not involved. Arcel hadn't seen these girls on the island before. They only came when Shiata left. So this is the work of the vassals. Therefore, the girl agreed to the offer. The Countess wanted to look at the flowers in the garden. There were probably many beautiful ones there, but this answer did not satisfy the assistants very much. They talked about different types of flowers, but they still insisted on showing her the meadow until the sun went down. They had already started to lead Arcel to the exit, but Kale saw it. He immediately suspected something was wrong. He began to whisper and ask if these girls were sometimes brought without his knowledge. "Do you like red flowers?" "Many people speak them on the mainland," he says to his future wife. She knew how they got rid of garbage here. The girls were indeed from a family of rebels. The Duke ruthlessly dealt with uninvited guests. A man reaches out to treat a girl because she collected dust for him. The sleeve of his shirt was smeared with blood. It seems that the girl does not like red flowers. The husband realized this when he took the hand of his future wife. She was trembling with fear. He covered the girl's eyes with a handkerchief so that she would not get dirty in the pollen of red flowers. Everything is over. The girl is no longer wearing a scarf. They do not take their eyes off each other. When she touches that hand, she feels calmer. They were sitting at the table. The Duke learned about the plan that the girl told Shiati. A truly wonderful bride appeared in Janat's family. Everyone should serve her well. Arkell caught the right moment to talk about the wedding. She said that they should separate as soon as her brother graduated from the academy. The girl forgot that they don't even have a wedding date yet, and she is already thinking about divorce. The entire continent must learn about their marriage so that no one targets Lyre. But if it doesn't work out, remarriage won't be a problem. The girl just didn't understand why she was so surprised by his beauty every time. The Duke says that it is necessary to prepare already so that everything will pass quickly and on a scale. They should get married in 6 months at the most. They will do everything within this period without any problems. But the girl is sure that this will not happen in 6 months. She will become a full-fledged head of Lyre only when she turns 20. Then she will have all the promised power over the water area. The man was sure that everyone who targeted Lyre's property would disappear soon. In addition, he knows that the younger brother of the late Count Lyre is still alive. And indeed alive, he was never seen before the funeral. He was the first to claim the title of head of the house. If there was no Arkell, then he would get what he wanted, regardless of the existence of Mikkel. It is better to announce the wedding earlier. At the time of the marriage, the name of the Duke becomes the name of the Countess. Now this is definitely the best option, but the devil never does anything to harm himself. She must stand by herself, must become a wall against which the brother can lean. All the same, they will play the wedding when the girl turns 20. She still won't be able to refuse him. Mikkel has already entered the academy. Someone enters the room. They brought that the Duke asked them. These were flowers. The girl asked Ella to bring them from the Lyre Garden. They were proof that the knight was indeed there. Sylvekia are known for their silver color, but due to the magic of the brother in the kingdom, their color changed to blue. The girl was interested in why the flowers were from Kale and not from the knight. Therefore, she waited for an answer from her husband. He only looked into her eyes. The Duke only joked, saying that Ella was already busy with royal affairs, so he asked him to give her the flowers himself. The girl thanked him for the flowers. The boy began to say that their garden is also full of beautiful flowers. There are also pigeons. She saw them recently. There are not only red flowers. The maid brings a letter on a tray and says that there is another package for the lady. The girl was very happy. It was a letter from Brother Mikkel. This is the first news from him since that time, how he went to the academy. She apologized to the Duke because she had to be the first to return to the room. She was eagerly waiting for the moment to finally read the letter. It was the first time the man had seen such an expression on her face. Kale was left alone with himself. He thought about Arkell. A smile appeared on his face. He knew that when Mikkel graduated from the academy they would divorce. It seems that he didn't like it. There is still a lot of time left before the divorce, but if it is about Mikkel himself, it might not be worth sending him to the academy. But then she would find another family without thinking. These thoughts did not leave the husband. In any case, if Kale gets the territory of Lyre, the contract will be completed, and no one will be able to oppose the house of Jenneth. The Duke called the maid. He wanted to know if there was any news of the ship from the South Sea. Everything was too hard. Arcelle lay with delight and read a letter from her brother. He entered the Faculty of Magic, as his sister said. He did not even know that he could use magic. Mikkel sent her a flower that he made with the help of magic. It will never wither. He made it because flowers do not grow well in the sea climate. Girl A was upset when she read that her brother wanted to be near her rather to protect her from all the enemies around them. The girl wrote a letter in response, at the end of which it was written, "I miss you, brother." The pirates returned to the island. That were attacked by monsters. They were happy to be alive. Many thought they would never set foot on the ground again. The boy asked the maid if it was true that the girl who came to the castle came up with the plan, but he was even more surprised when he learned that she also drew the map. And in the future, all the topics of the pirates' conversations were about Arcelle. No one understood how a girl who came from the mainland could draw such wonderful sea maps. Maybe she's not from the mainland? People even thought about that. The guys continued to sit at the table. They thought that the fact that the lady from the mainland would become the owner of the house was a fiction, and maybe Lila had confused it all. Nobody could believe it until now. The pirates were confused, even though she is a girl from the mainland, but she knows the sea well. How will they now engage in piracy in the open? An angry man burst into the room. It seems that the maid knew him. He was not here for the first time. She reported that His Highness was away now. This answer infuriated him even more. He began to shout that he needed a meeting with the Duke immediately. They should contact him now. Someone ran along the corridor without looking to the sides, not noticing people. Once in a while he touched someone. He quickly apologized and ran on. It was Mikkel. He received a reply letter from his sister, which he wanted to read as soon as possible. My brother was sitting on the couch and started reading. The letter was definitely from Arcelle. She was glad that he got to the academy safely. The girl could not make the same widow's flower that Mikkel gave her. Among the flowers on the island, she chose those that reminded her of her brother the most and made a small applique out of them. The sister hoped that he would like her gift. The brother got emotional. He missed his sister. Further in the letter, it was about whether he had not yet fought with anyone. The boy seemed to hear her voice in his head. He remembered his sister telling him not to make any more trouble. He knew that even if it was difficult for him, he would not leave there. The brother was worried that he had to leave her alone with that man. He remembered the day he signed the document to enter the academy. Everyone gathered again at the table. The conversation is about Marquis B's eldest son. He repeats again that he wants to buy more. He wants to get more. And for this, he is ready to double or even triple the amount of payment. They were talking about the Ale spice, a first-class product which around this time several times increased the official income of Duke Janat. A fragrant substance from the western part of the continent, which won the hearts of many aristocrats from the eastern part of it. In fact, the reason for the true value of this spice is... The man says that he doesn't know why he begs him like that, but apparently people like the taste with smoke, although he can't understand it. In Janat's house, but she seems to like them. The case of Nilam de Bay was settled. The Duke ordered him sent back. There was no point in undermining other people's trust for a small profit. Kale does not yet know that the reason why everyone is so diligently looking for the spice is its magical power. It attracts many people to it. In the end, there were people who were able to monopolize the flavor additive, raising the price several times. They were mages from the tower in the center of the continent. In the future, Uncle Parr will find this connection by chance. When the girl remembers what Viscount Parr did to the Lyre House in the novel, she cannot close her eyes to it. The girl has to break the contract with him. If she tells about Alea, it will be of great benefit to Janat, but it is better not to raise even more suspicions on herself. The fact that she already knows a lot looks strange. She doesn't know what to say to the Duke. Arcelle asks the maids to bring her some spices. She wants to send some to her brother. The inhabitants of the island hate Alea, but the girl will bring some for Mikkel's sake. The spice has a very high price. It is an amount that will last a commoner's family for several years. It is very expensive for a girl. Nevertheless, it is not much for the Janat family. A girl writes a letter to her brother. Since he is a magician, she will immediately understand what it is. And as soon as the secret power of the spice is found, she will offer him a contract that will help both him and Lyre. The Countess could not understand why the inhabitants of the island do not like the spice so much, or whether its smell could have an effect on it. Is it possible that their hatred depends on the magical power hidden in it? Shiata visited the Duke. The man thought something was wrong, but she came to talk about his future bride. The assistant said that Arcelle seems to be interested in magic. Kale only asked again and squeezed the paper in his hand. Maybe she was interested in magic because she is from the mainland, but looking at the results of the experiment, there were no magicians in Lyre's house. The Duke thought, this is not the right time, but why is she interested in magicians on an island where there are none? Although there was still a magician in her district. The maid said that the Countess had sent some spices to Mikkel. Kale suspected that Ale and the magicians were somehow connected. However, he was most interested in whether the assistant was reading his fiancé's letters, and he forbade her to do so in the future because Arcelle might be offended. An awkward silence hung between the girl and the Duke. The guy bowed his head down. He was already completely confused because of all this information about the island can slip through. But he let such a dangerous situation go by itself, only because he is afraid to offend the girl. The guy mentions to the maid what recently happened in the garden. He doesn't know why he did that then. If it really wasn't effective at all, he had to find out who was behind them. Kale hopelessly looked out the window. Those girls were definitely from the Tastelli family. They were very skillful in dodging the sword. He had to capture them alive to have at least some evidence. He didn't understand why he did that, but he immediately remembered Arcelle. When he sees her eyes, her golden hair like the rays of the sun, when she looks and smiles at him, she is really cute. Such thoughts angered the Duke. The man did not understand why he was thinking about it now. There was a knock at the door. It was Arcelle. She looked out from the door and just asked if no one was disturbed. The girl wanted to make a reception with the participation of merchants in the Gennet Sea, so she told her future husband about this idea. He immediately guessed that all this was for magicians, so he asked if it was really so. The girl was shocked. She did not understand how he knew this, but she continued to say that she really wanted to invite them and talk to them. The Duke did not pretend that these fees were necessary only because of the spices. Just say that she very suddenly became interested in magicians. As far as she knew, organizing receptions is the right of the hostess. The husband agrees with this. He was shocked when the bride offered to go with her. He did not look away. Perhaps the expression on his face now suggests that he is not going anywhere. Of course, he is not interested in activities with the presence of magicians, but he decides to agree. Everyone was shocked by such an answer, as well as his future bride and the maid Shiata. The girl was not opposed to them going together. She thought that the Duke did not like magicians, but when he heard that the girl was embarrassed, she spoke up. Kale agreed with this idea, but he cannot leave his bride alone on a ship that will be filled with a bunch of suspicious personalities. In addition, this is the first banquet at which he will introduce her as the future mistress of Janat. The appointment was scheduled a few days later. Arcelle needed to make a list of invitees and contact the magicians. It also took time to deliver Aile, which was very expensive. All shiny things had to be removed from the event because magicians don't like them. Shiata's maid was shocked. This young lady, who has not even debuted yet, is handling everything so casually, as if she has had many such receptions. She informs that she must look dignified, as at the reception she will be introduced as the wife of Duke Janat. The girl was shocked when she found out that in order to choose her clothes, she had to meet the captain first. Arcelle was sure that in the book it was definitely written that there were no carriages on the island, but they were riding in one of them. The Countess decided to ask the Duke about it. His answer was unexpected because the carriages had never really been on the island, until now, of course. It was created only recently. Kale looks at her. He couldn't let his precious bride ride a horse. At first, the girl was surprised, but remembered that Arcelle does not know how to ride a horse. Although a greater number of nobles learn this, but she did not know anything. She wondered where they were going, so she asked her husband. He said that since the reception is just a few days away, he wants his bride not to worry about unnecessary things. She didn't immediately understand what he was talking about, so she asked again, and he said with a smile that she didn't have to worry about what to wear. Here's the thing. They're going to look at clothes. There's a family on the island that makes clothes. The Duke turned out to be more caring than the girl thought about him. She blushed. In the book, the man was described as a person who did not like festive clothes. He chose a modest, black and white uniform because it was not comfortable to control the ship in luxurious clothes. He looked at his bride. He really doesn't care about clothes, but at the same time he worries about the appearance of his future wife. The couple walked into a rather simple house and were immediately greeted by a man and a woman who must have been the makers of clothing on the island. A noise was heard from above. It was run by one of the pirates working for Janat. The girl was shocked by his appearance, but the Duke was angry, so he ordered the boy to dress normally. The man soon ran away from them. He apologized for the inconvenience, and Kale was still standing there annoyed. Arcelle was smiling. She didn't know it was Sir Li Ji's mansion Anna _. The Duke forgot to warn her about this, so that there would be no awkward situations. Although it was all strange, she wanted to know why she was brought here. An elderly couple, the boy's parents, wanted to take the heroine to the right place. Kale stopped them. The man wanted to take care of everything himself. He just asked those people to remind Li Jian about manners. They embarrassed. They were ashamed. The Duke extended his hand to his future wife. He offered to lead her himself. The girl walked by the man's hand. She asked him if he was here often. Memories flashed through his mind. The last time he was here was when he was 6 years old. Since then, he never visited this place again. Every time she learns more and more about him, what was not written in the book. They approach the room. The girl can't take her eyes off it. It is completely filled with different clothes and a great variety of fabrics. Kale said that all the dresses in this room were now hers. The girl noticed that they were very similar to his form. If she wears one of these dresses, anyone will know that she is his bride. The man leaned over her. He began to whisper to her that if someone sees her in this dress and does not show respect, she should remember that she is the wife of Duke Janat. At least in the Eastern Sea, her status is not lower than the emperor. Arcel was embarrassed. He was too close, but he sharply turned away and opened a box. He wanted to find the right dresses for her, but he wasn't sure he'd hit the spot given his bride's high standards. But it was exactly the style of clothes the girl was wearing. She was looking at one of the dresses. The Duke apologized and put earrings on the heroine's ears. He was sure that they would go well with her dress. He seems to be well versed in this. Kale approached the girl. He put his hand on her face and asked her to close her eyes for a while. She did not understand what was happening. The man was getting closer and closer to her. She moved away from him, saying that she felt cold. The guy asked her if she was really that surprised. She said no, but in her mind she was of course surprised. He learned something from his mother. He began to wipe the girl's face. His mother often said that she needed to get some air because the wind of the island was suffocating her. She couldn't bear it here. She was disappointed. The Duke applied lipstick to the heroine's lips with a stick and continued to talk about his mother. She said that the stories about the honesty of the people of the island were lies. According to her, the locals were more cynical than the people on the mainland. Kale, without any emotion, continues to tell the story. He was too young then to understand everything that was happening. But the locals can't say anything to their face, even if they don't like someone. Therefore, they took his mother to Anna. Everyone knew that Duchess Jenna died together with her husband in an accident, but their son believes that the islanders sent his mother to Anna to kill her. Arcel decided to ask if her husband was close to his mother. His answer surprised her. He asked about his mother, his own or his stepmother. She did not know that Duke Janat was married twice. The man laughs. She knew the secret of the island, but she had not heard anything about it. He could not even think that being his bride, she was not very interested in his past. The heroine was in a misunderstanding. None of this was in the book she was reading. The former Duchess used to be Von Tastelli. She came from the current family of rebels, and because of the poor health of little Kale, they hardly saw each other. The guy admits that his stepmother is really the Duchess of Tastelli. It was because of her that his own mother died. The girl was shocked. Little Kale seems to be standing in front of Arcel. He already knew the real reason for his mother's death as a child. Being a really strong woman and a knight, she could not refuse help to anyone. She took all the initiative on herself. No one wanted to go with her to Anna. Because of this, the news of her death soon came. The man continued to color the girl. If his mother had more power, no one would have harmed her. At least it seemed so to him. No one supported his mother. Arcel listened carefully to her fiancé. He asked her not to go to dangerous places, not to be ashamed to use the name Janat. She should not allow herself to be killed. They ended there. The girl thought she knew a lot more about him. Kale moved away, but surprisingly the heroine still felt his tenderness. She returned to the memories from her life. Her sister was crying. She thought that he really liked her. She apologized for showing emotions. It's only today. She won't be there anymore. Arcel immediately remembered Mikkel. She hugged him in her mind. Now it was her duty to protect him, as her sister had protected her. The girl is ashamed. She cannot fall in love with the Duke. She is sure that he does not feel any emotions towards her. The future couple had dinner at the table. They heard someone enter the hall, so they immediately looked around to see who it was. They were informed that a letter had arrived from Mikkel. The Duke was angry but did not show it. He did not understand why such a thing should be reported during the meal. She waited a long time for this letter from her brother and asked if she could open it right now. The man was annoyed but could not refuse her. Kale decided to ask, and if this letter was from him, she would be as happy as she is now or not. The girl laughed. If he wants to tell her a secret through a message, then he can do it right now. They are still here, just the two of them. Wouldn't it be better than writing a letter? The man watched her closely. He did not understand why the simple word together sounded so sweet to him. Arcel began to read the letter. The brother was glad that his sister was writing to him. He was not at all opposed to her continuing to surprise him like this. Mikkel immediately guessed what kind of powder she sent. He felt magical energy from it. Kale asked Shiata to bring some papers so that he could write the answer. The Countess says that her brother really liked the spices. The Duke, for some reason, thought about it at that moment. He said that if his brother-in-law liked ale, then he can give a little more of it, just when the product will be on sale. The girl did not understand why he was so worried about her brother. For the Liar family, this is a very large amount. Although for Jenna it is a penny, the husband agreed with it. Arcel had no choice. She asked if she could first give one part of the amount, and a little later the other. Such an answer outraged her future husband. He abruptly got up from the table and did not look her in the eyes. If she so wants to pay, she can do it in another way. The guy stood over the girl and asked to get a little closer. He did not immediately understand what he was doing at that moment. The girl was only joking. She probably did not immediately understand what he meant. Such an answer hit the Duke's heart, and really, she doesn't understand hints at all. Kale came even closer to Arcel. He asked her if he could do whatever he wanted on the ship. He, as an organizer, can take care of magicians, but if she has any business with them, he will understand everything. The man promised to meet all the bride's expectations. The smile never left his face. Reception day. The girl looks at the box, which already has a lot of spices. She asked for less of them. Behind, only one of the knights is worried. Such a purchase cost Janat a big penny. She remembers that she really said she needed a lot less. Her husband had prepared better than she thought. He may not like sorcerers, but there is nothing wrong in developing a relationship with them. The preparation is gradually coming to an end. The Countess stands on the deck and looks at what took so much time to create. Kale approaches from behind. He asks if the bride had enough ale. She was embarrassed by such a quantity, but he asked to take it as a gift. The girl agreed. She laughed. She had a lot of thoughts in her head, but she knew for sure that the mages would definitely like it. Arcel asked her future husband to take care of her this evening. He didn't know how to react to that. The Duke combed the girl's hair in his hand, asks her not to call him Your Highness again. From today, she should call him Kale. The Countess could not understand how it was possible to say his name so simply. When she read the novel, she thought how beautiful he was. The groom says that two people who will soon get married should not be ashamed to call each other by their first names. Arcel was still embarrassed, but called him by name. The man extended his hand to her and invited her to go with him. The future couple stood in front of all the maids and knights. They bowed to them. Finally, all preparations for the event are over. The girl turned to the boy. She reminded him that the magicians will sit in the port, and she has one request for him. During this reception, she asked him not to talk to anyone. Of course, this confused him very much. He did not understand why he should not do this. He smiled. She asks him to shut up in such a sweet voice. Kale, of course, was curious about the reason for this request. The answer was simple. It gives a very terrible impression, and it will interfere with the contract. With such an innocent face, she hid him under her breath, but somehow she was able to come to an agreement with him. The man asks if he really looks that scary. The girl does not know how to express herself correctly. She really thinks so. He scares her. Kale, looking at the girl, asks if she is also afraid of him. It is difficult to answer. My voice is shaking, but I can only hear from my mouth that yes, I am afraid. The guy approaches her. He touches her chin with his hand, asks her to answer clearly to this terrible person. She expected something worse, but he asked why she was afraid of him. The Duke of the Master of the Sea, at one of his whims or orders, she can be killed. Even with the contract, she wasn't safe. If he wanted to start a war against Liar and kill the girl, she would have no choice. If she dies, it will be over. Arcel, shaking his head, makes it clear that no, it was an answer to the man's question about whether he trusts him, but he is really quite a reliable business partner. It will be good, of course, if what she talked about before that does not happen. They look at each other. She doesn't like that she's drawing a line between them with her words, but he's actually pushing her away. The man leans closer to her. He wants to cross the line drawn by Arcel but she knocks him down, asks what he is thinking about. It just seems that the sorcerers have already reached the port. The man stood embarrassed. He himself did not understand what he was thinking. The magicians were already entering the ship. The first was Medea. She is the head of the second department of the Sorcerer's Tower. Arcelle greeted all the new guests with a smile and decided to say that Kale was her future fiancé. All the wizards were shocked. Some of them decided to leave the ship. Chiata and Rosetta joined the married couple. Only then did the girl notice that they were very similar. Apparently they were twins. They came to inform that one of them will have to return to the mainland because twins are considered a foolish sign. The previous owner hated the twins, so Rosetta was surprised and ran after Arcelle said that she was fine with it. The girl began to say that she probably needs to chop off 20 heads so that people stop believing in such nonsense. Everyone was shocked by such words, but the Duke himself remembered that he had said something similar to her before. If anyone believed in superstitions, they would be thrown into the sea. Arcelle allowed the girls to talk a little before the long separation. They were shocked, but very grateful to the Countess. Medea came here only out of curiosity, but now she is completely shocked by what is happening. How could everyone forget what happened in Jeanette's house 50 years ago? A married couple approached the magician. They asked if she was having a bad time, but she answered uncertainly. She thought that some reason was waiting for her. Arcelle treats the girl with spices, so that she feels at least a little magical energy in her. The Countess was not mistaken. The plan was successful, and the sorceress already asked that the towers of magicians sell it periodically. The girl thanked her husband for being silent. He smiled. The wizards watching all this were shocked. They could not recognize Duke Jeanette. He looked like a completely different person. He must have really fallen in love. Medea gives the heroine a talisman, by which she will then contact her. She strongly asked to do this. The whole event was already ending. The girl stood and said goodbye to everyone with a smile on her face, wished them all the best, while her husband stood with a stony face. The girl thanked him again for the service. But Kale revealed her secret. He asked if she knew that they were going to buy Ailey. She was confused. She had no idea that everything would come out so soon. The man leans closer and closer. He repeats again that she knew everything from the beginning. The heroine immediately found a way out of the situation, saying that Mikkel told her about the spice, but she didn't know that magicians would really like it. The Duke smiles. The word clearly comes out of his mouth, but he knows that all this is a lie. He destroyed all the traders and could not believe that there are any channels that allow the exchange of information. From the girl's behavior today, it was clear that she knew not only about the island, but also about the spice from the very beginning, and in order not to arouse suspicion, she wrote an official letter to her brother. It's all a well-thought-out lie. A person who knows such information is dangerous. It is enough to turn this snow-white neck, and his hand is right on it. He could not do anything in time. The girl called him to pay attention. Arcelle returned to the house. She knew that it was a big deal, but was the banquet really so conspicuous? She's confused. She shouldn't worry so much. In a few days. The captain is sitting in his office. He is informed that the bride has come to him. He has been waiting for this for a long time. The girl comes closer to the table. She immediately says that she plans to propose to Jeanette. The Duke began to listen to her attentively. Arcelle knew that Jeanette had a bad relationship with magicians. The man agreed with this, and added that he did not know whether he would hold back at the next meeting so as not to start a war. She offered to deal with the contract herself, since she is the only one among all who can do it. Her plans are to make the magicians fight over the spices to increase the price of them very much. Because of this, the income will rise very much, and soon the business will expand across the continent. The Countess knew that Kale would try to talk her out of it. He thought that there was no point in this income if they were going to earn it through magicians. But the girl was ready to take over all communication with magicians. Arcelle's offer is 50-50. She announces this to the groom. If the income increases, then there are plans to divide 40-60, but there were concerns that this might be overkill. The man was satisfied with what his future wife said. She is a wonderful woman who will soon become the owner of Jeanette. He approached her to tell her about it. Kale agreed, but he had one more condition for her. The girl asks what it is. In response, she hears that during the signing of all the contracts on spices, they will be together with each other. The boy knew that when she used the crystal to contact the mages, the secret of the island's existence could be revealed to the whole world. He had to take away everything that could sense danger. The only thing he didn't understand was why he couldn't take his eyes off her. She is opposite him, which he can't handle now. Arcelle brought paints. She put her fingerprint on the contract and held out everything so that the Duke would do the same as she did. Kale laughed, a blush appearing on his cheeks. It was really difficult to guess her next step. The girl asked for one more favor, to return Rosetta to the castle. She was allowed to do it. She was happy. Even before talking about it, she understood that he would not be able to refuse her. She left the office. The man remained sitting in the same place. He was shocked. He did not understand what was happening. Medea waited for them to contact her. She specifically asked whether they did not contact her because of spices. The groom was looking at her. He did not show concern. He read the papers. But he listened carefully to what she was talking about. Arcelle said that she would be able to send only 20 boxes in a large box to begin with, but the sorceress was very grateful even for such a quantity. The girl was smiling. Of course, there was a much larger amount in stock. The girl just lied very skillfully. The Duke heard everything. Because of the skill of this girl, he smiled. The girl drank her drink slowly. Her plan was going as it should. Magicians don't know how to keep their mouths shut. That's why many learned about the spice. Medea asked to sell all 20 boxes to the second department before others bought them. She can offer a higher price. This is exactly what the heroine was waiting for. She made an elaborate expression of surprise. Kale watched as his wife skillfully recorded all the emotions. Her face when she discussed the contract was very different from what she actually does. He had seen that expression on her face many times. He associated it with a rabbit. This image of a girl immediately appeared in his head. The sorceress was already almost screaming, which is why she attracted attention. She needed that spice, in her opinion. It would save their second department. The girl's plan was successful. Everyone will compete for the product. The magicians were not stupid, but if you could buy pride with money, they would buy it, the heroine said when Kale asked if something could go wrong. The married couple had dinner. The Duke informed them that they had been contacted by the magician's tower. The girl waited for what he would say next. None of them managed to agree on a price. Therefore, all 3 departments offered different prices. Everything went according to plan. The right to choose to whom to send the goods fell to Arcelle. Of course, she preferred the second division of the mage tower. They offered a higher amount. Therefore, she immediately told to send them the goods and spread the news around the district. The price of the spice will definitely increase, so they will share the profit. As they agreed, the Liar House will take 60% of all the profit. The girl was ashamed and blushed. She told the Duke that she was even sorry that the marriage would be so short. Kale dropped the glass of wine from his hands at what he heard. He blushed. He could not say a word to what he heard. Arcelle just said that she would be sorry not to receive any more money for spices, because this business will grow very much. The Duke was disappointed. He misunderstood everything. He said that even after the divorce, he would be able to send her some of the money. The man got up from the table and approached the heroine closely. The contract was purely her idea. Without her, it wouldn't have happened, so she will still receive the funds. He also said that they should meet at least 4 times to discuss the price. It sounds like a lot, but he just wants her to think about him at least once in a while. He put the next piece of food in his mouth, but it tasted terrible. He had no appetite anymore. The maids gossiped about the couple all day. They were sure that after the wedding, the two would stick to each other even more. When they first saw the hostess, they doubted that they really loved each other. She had a good effect on the captain. So even on a campaign, she understands ships, because she has drawn an effective map. Shiata was standing next to the girls. She overheard that Rosetta would return to the island. She was happy. Everyone already hoped that the two would get married soon. Kale called the maid. He informed her that all subsequent actions related to Allie will go through Arcelle. She is responsible for it. The assistant noticed that recently the atmosphere in the castle has softened, and this is true because soon there will be a new owner. Shiata asked if the Duke sometimes had spring in his soul. The man thought and imperceptibly blushed. He did not understand what kind of feelings he felt when she smiled shyly, or when their lips almost touched each other. She always seemed strong, but he understood differently when he took her trembling hand in the garden. Although not, he had these feelings from the moment they first met, when he saw her gaze. The man was very embarrassed by the maid's question, and such thoughts also affected his facial expression. There was a lot of blush. The girl opens the closet door. There is a lot of money. The spice deal went well. She had a payment equal to the income of House Liar for a year. Arcel summoned Shiata and asked her to ask if the Duke could give her some time. When they asked her the reason for the visit, she was embarrassed. She just wanted to see him. Couldn't that be enough? The maid understood everything without words. She immediately went to convey it to the captain. The future spouses walk through the garden. The girl talks about a new contract to disaster. Shiata ran to him with the news that Arcel wanted to meet him. She even made him change clothes. He asked what calamity would soon come. He was completely unaware of it, the girl reported. Because the tsunami is coming to the east, it is necessary to triple the breakwater on the lands of Liar. The guy was surprised when the bride offered to build the same structure on Janet Island with Liar's money. The girl knew that a lot of money would go to Janat. Their coastline is very large, but she really wanted to make this contribution. Kale leaned towards Arcel. He thought that she was proposing this idea because she thought it was dangerous here, or she wanted something from him. The second option was correct. The girl wanted him to allow her to buy Tinta Forest. There is no use for him. He is simply soaked in poison. Over time, the forest will become more and more popular, and in a few years they will find gold mines there, so they will simply hit the jackpot. The man asks the heroine what the forest is for. She lies to him, saying that she wants to study new plants. Everything there is full of magical herbs. The guy was indignant when he heard that she wanted a house in this forest, in which she would live with Mikkel in the future. Kale agreed to enter into this contract, but in return he asked that the construction took place in secret. No one should know about it. For some reason, this surprised the girl. Then she heard that it was to keep her uncle from finding out about him, so of course she didn't want that either. The man offered to sit down. Before Arcel could sit down, the Duke spread a handkerchief on the bench. She sat down. Sometimes it slipped out of her head that her future husband had such wonderful manners. Kale approached the heroine's face. He asked if she knew how many people in the Eastern Sea are hunting for her. What she heard made her nervous, but the man had something else in mind. He took several letters out of his pocket and handed them to her, adding, or she, how many people had their eyes on her. She slowly read all the letters. Most were from families that did not pose a threat, but one letter was completely different. It was from the county of Arpad. This is the family that lives together with the mansion of Viscount Pera. At the funeral, they were the first to show their clans. They invited Arcel and Mikkel to their place for a small reception to dispel their loneliness a little. The Duke asked if she would be there. She already had an invitation, but she didn't know what to say. Arpad's son is now looking for a bride. Even at the funeral in Lear's house they talked about it, and Arcel herself's opinion was not taken into account at that time. She was angry at the mention of it. The girl was glad that she chose Kale as her husband. He was not in competition. These words pleased him. The heroine could not choose what to answer to the letter, so the man decided to help. He approaches her and asks if there is any point in responding to this low-grade provocation. The Duchess wants to show everyone that there is no better man on the East Coast for her than him. Then all those who aim at her will disappear. She was again unsure if she would go to the reception, as there would be other families who had attended the funeral. Her husband's question about whether she would allow herself to be caught in a trap made her blush. The future couple made the right choice, the more they invite them to their wedding. Kale addressed the bride, and she was still in her thoughts about the wedding, which he dispelled in an instant. Sir Elaha will go on a campaign to Anna in a month, so she was offered a new knight, but she refused. It will soon be able to use another person, so there is no need to redistribute workers. Around this time, the true warrior Liar, a man with excellent swordsmanship who never saw the light of day after the death of Liar's brother and sister, should make his appearance. It was Khan. With his help, the girl will put the house on its feet. Rumors spread. People found out that Lady Liar was building a breakwater girl. Having never been to the beach so worried about the coast, it was strange for them. Arcel was reading the newspaper, but she found out that rumors about her new plan had leaked. But the girl was happy. No one paid attention to the fact that breakwaters are being built in Janat, so everything went as it should. Only their homes will be safe from the impending disaster. She asked Shiata for some more tea. While the maid was looking out the window, something flew into the room at a very high speed. She did not have time to do anything. It was a letter. It flew right into Arcel's face. This was written by Mikkel. He greatly improved his skills in the delivery of letters. The boy wrote that he is trying his best to finish his studies as soon as possible. He is sad that for several years in a row, he cannot celebrate his sister's birthday with her. On the back of the letter, he put his photo. He has grown a lot since their last meeting. Professor TR again appeals to Mikkel. He still wants him to become his personal student, but the guy has reasons why he doesn't want to. He needs an early release. The man hands the boy a letter. It is from his sister. He was happy, so he quickly excused himself and ran to read it. He blushed while reading the letter. She saw his portrait. Her brother grew up like that. She regrets that she does not personally see the moments of his growth. The sister will be happy if he is released early, but if this does not happen, then there is nothing wrong. Mikkel was embarrassed by such words. Lady Lear seemed to be whispering in his ear that if he graduated from the academy before she was in her 20s, maybe she wouldn't have to marry. The boy was already ready to graduate, but he read further, where the sister wrote that it was a joke. He was upset. The letter also wrote about Kale's question. What she will do after the divorce. The girl is not going to remarry, but if there is a man nearby who will bring stability, she will marry him. The future couple was sailing the sea. The man approached the girl and said that she should not go out. It will be a long journey. She joyfully replied that she could not stand aside. They were taking the spice to the magician's tower. She needs to get used to the sea while she is Janat's mistress. Mikkel will not have time to graduate from the academy so soon because several years will definitely pass by then. The man was surprised and asked her if when she returned to the mainland, she would never return to the sea again. The smell of raw fish mixed with blood is sometimes unpleasant, but she is unlikely to smell it, only he noticed it. The ship rocked again. Her hat fell from the lady, but the Duke managed to catch it. As before, she found herself in his arms again, splashes of water flying at them. They were attacked by a monster. Panic arose. Everyone was told to prepare for an attack. Now it will be necessary to defend. The Duke ordered Kiris to deal with the situation. He shook his head and went to work. The man took the girl to a safer place. They went to the cabin. Kale asked if she wasn't scared, and she answered that she was a little scared. Most often, monsters do not appear in this part of the sea, and the knights recently dealt with all the monsters near Anna. This is indeed true, but the man said that recently there have been more and more of them. If their number increases, Janat will have more problems with sending ships. There is a treaty between them and the imperial family, thanks to which they became the guardian of the sea. The man does not know if later they give the order to destroy all the pirates, then he must cut his throat or that emperor. Kiris entered the cabin. He informed them that the monster was destroyed and it was now safe outside. Kale put his hat on Arcel and invited her out. The Duke ordered that she ought to be told to investigate Anna upon arrival, but her current is now abnormal, so it will be very difficult to do so, having to use magicians from the mainland. Magicians should be taken as sea guests. The girl was shocked to hear this. She understood that they would not return to the mainland. Both the sea and Kale are ruthless, although you can forget about it. Surprisingly, the girl herself got used to everything, just being herself. The young couple was sitting at the table. She was informed that a letter had arrived from the imperial family. They knew what it was about. Arcel read it carefully, as this year she came of age and accumulated enough territory management skills to be declared the official head of House Lyre. The captain began to say that if she had already reached the age of 20, they could play a wedding. The girl forgot about it. She was embarrassed. Everything dragged on because she herself was delaying time. They were both smiling. The girl said that she couldn't wait for their marriage, and he, in turn, promised to prepare everything perfectly. Preparation was in full swing. A white wedding dress was already sewn on the heroine. The knights saw off the Duke. Preparations for the wedding were over. He was dressed in an elegant white suit. He went up to the deck where Arcel was already standing. She greeted him with a smile and informed him that the sea was surprisingly calm today. He looked at her lovingly. The sea was indeed much calmer than when his bride had first boarded the ship. The girl tore up and threw into the sea another letter from Fond de Par. He wrote that he was dissatisfied with her behavior. The reception he so wanted will take place, but she will be his main character. The man complained that the event they were waiting for would soon take place, but he was already completely dissatisfied. She was so engrossed in the guests that she forgot to spend time with her husband. He offered to cut off their heads so that she would pay attention to him a little. The girl was shocked. He is again talking about such cruelties. There was a short moment of silence, but Arcel could not stand it. She laughed. The boy looked at her fascinated. Everyone who was on the ship always said that the island does not like strangers, but she really liked this place. Thinking back to the day she came to conclude the contract, she had no time to be afraid. She tried to do everything possible to change the ending of the book. The purpose of this was that Mikkel, who so desperately held her hand as he once did before his rebirth, would definitely become happy. A happy ending is still far away, but she is getting closer to it. Wedding day. Arkell is standing in an elegant white dress, holding a small bouquet of peach flowers in her hands. At this moment, she is informed that Mikkel did not come. The time of the bride's exit had already come, but the brother never appeared. According to tradition, someone from her relatives was supposed to lead her, but she goes alone. In any case, it's a contract marriage, so in a few years it won't matter. The husband saw that his wife was leaving alone. He did not know where Mikkel was, so he decided to approach her. He offers her to go together. He is ready to take her hand, but someone interrupts this process. It was Mikkel. He was holding his sister's hand tightly. The lady was happy that he was able to come. He apologized for being late and kissed her hand. The Duke withdrew to take his place, and his brother did not take his eyes off him. He did not like Kale von Janat at all. The brother saw what a mean look he had. He did not know and did not understand if his sister would later divorce him. He was sure that this scoundrel would not let her go so easily. As it should be according to tradition, one of the relatives leads the bride. Although the guy was late, he came. In a few years, he grew up a lot, became taller than his sister. Somewhere at the back tables, Viscount Parr was angry. He had heard rumors about the wedding, but he didn't think it was true. He bribed the employees of the Lyre House, but even they did not help him. A man approached him and said that his master wanted to see the Viscount. The priest conducts the ceremony. He speaks and wishes them that the god of the seas will send only fair winds to all present. They were told that now they have to exchange a vow kiss. Only after that they will officially become a couple. The girl was shocked. Kale pulled Arcel to him. Didn't they have to advertise to everyone that they didn't even have a chance? The man was not in a hurry, he told her so, but he kissed her on the forehead, and then on the cheek she was no longer worried. The Duke called her by name and immediately kissed her gently on the lips, which was a surprise for her. They seemed to be overflowing with feelings, but could not tear themselves away from the kiss. Kale saw Brother Arcel glare at them. He only gave him a sly look back. After the ceremony, the girl happily ran to her brother. She could finally talk to him. Her fiancé walked slowly behind her. She hugged him tightly. They had not seen each other for 3 years, and the boy had really grown very strong, and the girl had improved beyond recognition. Mikkel said that he is not here for long. He was only released for a day. He is going back tomorrow. The sister holds his face and hopes that he will come out soon. Arcel asked if it is true that it is so difficult to graduate from the academy ahead of time. The boy was embarrassed, but told that he did not like only one professor because he gave him a lower grade. The teacher wanted him to study with him personally, but he always refused him. With a smile on his face, he explained the reason to his sister. He just wanted to get back to her faster. The groom came from behind. He wanted to take the girl, because there are still many people willing to talk to her. The girl listened to him. She ran. Her brother did not have time to say anything to her. Mikkel and Kale were left alone. The boy did not hide his dislike. He looked angrily at her sister's now fiancé. The fair-haired boy was angry. He believed that he was allowing himself too much there. They would get divorced sooner or later. Their marriage would not last forever. According to the contract, it was until he graduated from the academy. Herzog says that until then, they should pretend to be a loving couple, but Mikkel's words that the girl considers the marriage to be real, unlike him, really angered him. The man leaned over the boy. He was taller than him and whispered that he knew all this, but nothing could be changed. They got married. Everything was according to the contract. Arkell called Kale to her. She believed that she should communicate with the guests not alone, but together they should look like a happy family. The man smiled and said that if his brother-in-law didn't mind, he would go. The brother was disappointed. He was in a hopeless position. Mikkel looked at him. The groom put his hand on his wife's shoulder and they left. Probably many people are waiting for them now. Kale walks down the corridor. It's all over. He was incredibly tired after all this. As soon as the feast was over, she ran away first. She said goodbye to her husband and ran. He walked to the door of her room. There were many gift boxes. The man did not know what the girl's reaction would be if he tried to approach her, so he entered her to find out.